Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Books with BethX here and welcome to my July reading wrap up. So July was another interesting month. Unfortunately, I only managed to read three books this month, mainly because I was reading a ginormous book, which apparently I started on the 12th of July, because I just looked it up on my story graph because I like to keep my stats updated on there. Started it on the 12th of July, and have I finished it yet? No, but to be fair, I did have a sort of a little mini break from it, which I will explain as we get to it. But as always, I will discuss the books in order that I've read them, just because there's so few of them. I've seen a few people doing like worst to best or best to worst, which is quite interesting, but that's only interesting if you read more than 3 books, isn't it? So yeah, I'll do them in order, and then again at the end, if you like stats, stick around because I'll be going over my stats for the month. Again, there's only 3 books, so there's not really too many interesting insights, but there's a few on there. So yes, shall we begin with the first book I read this month? And this time, let's hope I actually remember to stick my books up on the shelf, because last time I just piled them up on the table next to me and it just didn't look great. So the first book I read was my 5-star read of the month, although I will say this month was a pretty positive month, to be honest, but I did give this 5 stars. Obviously, I mean, it's an R.F. Kuang, Rebecca F. Kuang book. I think every single book of hers I've given 5 stars to at this point. Obviously, I just adore her. And this was just as insane as I expected it to be. Like, I did not like a single character in it, but I loved the story. And it was a train wreck. So what is this about? So you follow Junie. She's a wannabe famous author. She has published a book. It's not done very well. And she's quite close friends with a girl called Athena Liu. And Athena Liu is a very, very successful author. She's an Asian author. And all of her books are incredible. Junie's very jealous of her. They're close friends, but in a more rivalry way on Junie's part. I don't think Athena even knew they were rivals. And one day they were hanging out and Athena dies all of a sudden in front of her, and Junie decides to steal her manuscript and release it under her own name. But the story was about Chinese labourers in World War II. And obviously Junie is a white American woman who... It's not to say that a white American woman couldn't research and write a book of that calibre, but she hasn't. So that's where the story begins. And it's just a train wreck from start to finish. The way that Junie was justifying her decisions, there's literally a point where she's like, yeah, well, Athena wrote the manuscript, but I did most of the work. I did all the editing, I changed scenes, added in scenes, and then that's why I've published it and why it should be my name and not Athena's. And she doesn't even mention Athena in the book. If it was me, right, not that I'd ever steal my friend's manuscript, but if it was me, I'd at least release it and say, it was joint written, co-authored. At least, and then it might have done even better because obviously Athena had asked, but it's just, the level she went to justify it was just incredible throughout the whole story. But it is such an interesting story, and I really enjoyed the look into the publishing industry and how books are marketed. They changed Junie's name to Juniper Song, so she had a racially ambiguous name. Obviously she's a white girl, but it made it sort of sound like she might have been Korean or at least of an Asian ethnicity. But yeah, it was quite interesting how they came up with that, and all the stages you go through to promote a book, so going to book talks and things like that. But also dealing with grief as well. Junie she does struggle with the grief side of things. She has a lot of panic attacks, and it's just one of those books where you don't know what's going to happen next. Let's just say it that way. I don't want to spoil anything that happens in this because you need to read it. It's just a wild ride from start to finish. It's just insane, and it was just so interesting. I won't say enjoyed, but I liked sort of reading from Junie's perspective, as there was sort of Twitter pile-ons on her, attacking her, and how they were impacting her through that respect. But also, let's say the publishing industry, the marketing side of it. I work in marketing, so that all really interested me. Yeah, just a really good book. Highly recommend reading this. Obviously, I gave it 5 stars, as I do for any Rebecca F. Kuang book. And I hope she releases something soon. I know that she's going to pause a bit because she is working on PhDs and things. But anything she releases, she's an auto-bio author for me. Anything she releases, I'll be buying. So, and pretty much give anything a 5-star from her as well. So yeah, love this. Recommend everyone buy and read this because it's just insane. It's marketed as a thriller. I wouldn't call it a thriller. But yeah, that's just me. But yeah, so good. Hopefully that's in shot. It's probably going to keep focusing on that as well. I forgot to say that I read that as part of a readathon as well as this. So There's a girl on Bookstagram called A Clockwork Book. She does quite regular readathons. She did one obviously in July, early July. She's doing another one, a Taylor Swift Lover inspired one at the end of August. So if you're on Bookstagram, keep an eye out for that, because I'm sure it'll be another fun one that she will be doing. Obviously, I will be taking part of it as well. And the second book I read for that readathon, although I finished it a little bit after, is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I have some thoughts. So I gave this 3.5 stars in the end. I originally gave it 4 stars, and when I was looking back, I was like, probably even 3.5 is slightly too high, but I think it's higher than a 3-star, just because of the world building and stuff. How do I explain this? I mean, you've probably watched a TV show by this point. I will say the TV show's better than this. I don't say it very often. Basically, it's set in this world. It's almost like Russian inspired, I'd say, where something happened a few hundred years ago, and this sort of, what they call the fold, is being cut across the middle of the continent. And there's like different countries around surrounding it. And in the fold, it's almost like a shadow, and there's like monsters in it, and you can't really, the only way to get from side to side is by crossing through it, and it's very, very dangerous. And it's basically, in this world, they're on the hunt for someone called the Sun Summoner, who is someone who will be able to end the fold. And then obviously that will cause a lot of like political things to happen, like wars may start, because obviously people on different sides of the fold aren't really the biggest fans of each other, and yeah, it will just cause some issues. And in this, you follow a girl called Alina. Now, Alina somehow managed to avoid being tested when she was younger. So every young child's tested for magical abilities. If they have magical abilities, they then go off to this sort of magical school where they train and, yeah, become basically really good soldiers, or they do like different parts in the world. And she managed to avoid that. And then it comes to a day where her and the boys she grew up with are forced to cross the fold. And in the process of doing so, turns out that she is the Sun Summoner, the most powerful person in the universe. And that's where the story starts. And she's like whisked away to the magical school and stuff like that. What can I say about this? Honestly, my main thoughts is that I really don't like Alina. She really, really annoyed me throughout this. Like every other sentence from when she's in the magical school, bearing in mind she's the most powerful woman in the universe, was, I miss Mal. Where's Mal? I hope Mal still remembers me. Where is he? Oh no, I bet he doesn't care about me. He's not writing back to me. Mal doesn't give a damn about me. Literally every other sentence. And she's not saying that. She's saying, oh, I know I'm not the prettiest girl in the world. Oh, I'm like the ugliest girl in this school. All the other girls are more beautiful than me. Girl, come on. Like, you are the most powerful woman in this universe, and all you care about is your looks and your love interest. Like, move on. And in the meantime, this is a bit of a spoiler. If you've watched a TV show, you'll know, but this is a little bit of a spoiler. But the man that's in charge of like the magical section of the world, the Darkling, she sort of starts a little relationship with him, but meanwhile she's in this sort of relationship with him. He's like the most powerful man. She's probably more powerful, I'd say, but he's like the second most powerful person in the whole world. While she's sort of starting this relationship with him, she's still thinking, where's Mal? I miss Mal. What would Mal be doing right now? And then goes off, snogs him, and then comes back and is like, I miss Mal. It's just like, girl, come on. I hope she's not this insufferable in the next book. 'Cause I heard that Mal is apparently supposed to be better in the TV show, but Mal didn't annoy me that much. Maybe he will in the next ones. But Alina, oh my god, she's so much better in a TV show. She really, really annoyed me. And it's kind of making me not look forward to reading the next one, but I will do it. I want to get to Six of Crows, like, that's my only reason for reading it. But I did quite like the world aspect of this. I like sort of like the political intrigue and things like that. I'm hoping the world will get bigger in the next books. It feels like not a lot really happened in this in regards to the world building side of it. It'd be interesting to see more of the world. And obviously I watched all the TV show, but I feel like this book does in a way add to it. So in the TV show, the magical system's not explained too well, and like the different outfits the Grisha wear and things like that. You sort of learn a little bit more from reading this. As I say, I'm mainly reading this series to get Six of Crows and I always forget what's the first one called? I know the second one's The Rule of Wolves. I always forget what the first one in that duology is called. But yeah, I will read them. I mean, at least it's short. That's what's got going for it. And it took me like 5 days to read it, and it's probably because it's only 300 pages. It's probably because Alina just annoyed me so much. Every time I was reading it, I was just like, just shut up. Like, just get on with it. Literally, you're living in a time of war, girl. Come on. You're like the most powerful woman. Focus on like being even more powerful. Just, anyway, yeah. I will, if you've seen my TBR, I am reading the second book this month, so I will get to it, but I feel like I've exhausted myself now from having that big rant, but it's true. She really annoyed me. If you've read this, you'll know what I mean. But yeah, 3.5 stars. I think that's probably more than what it's worth, but I liked the world and I want to learn a bit more about it, so yeah. And then the third book I finished was Darkachay the Magic by V.E. Schwab. This is a reread. So I'll go into what I'm currently reading in a second, but basically I couldn't travel with that book, so I thought I'll travel with this and make a start on it, and then I thought I might as well just finish it, and it only took me a few days to actually read in total. And yeah, this was a reread and I was pleasantly surprised. So I did really enjoy this when I first read it in 2019, I want to say it was. And I loved it even more this time. Obviously it's V. Schwab, so like, can I be blamed for loving it? Probably not. So what is this about? So in this world, you have 4 different versions of London. Red London, which is where our main character Kel is from, which is one that's like in harmony with its magic. You have Grey London, which is sort of like our London. It's sort of set in Victorian times, which is where our character Leela is from, or Lila. You have White London, let me try and remember it all, which is where magic is sort of taken over the world, and there's quite a lot of battles for power among the residents that live there. And then there's Black London, which is sort of the final stage of what's happening to White London at the time, where magic has completely taken over, destroyed the world. You can't travel there, like, there'll be quite a lot of death. And Kel is a magician, and he is one of the very, very few people that can travel between the different Londons. So there's literally 2 people who can do that, which is Kel and Holland, who lives in White London. But Kel is a bit naughty, so he travels between the Londons and can like send messages from his king to other kings. Actually, it's quite interesting. So King George III is the king that's featured in this. He's also the king that's in the Bridgerton series. So I thought that was quite interesting that I've just read this while just finishing watching Queen Charlotte. It's the same guy. Like, that was quite interesting, and he's portrayed pretty similar ways, to be fair. Obviously, it's the older him in this, as well as the older him in the rest of Bridgerton, other than Queen Charlotte. But anyway, yeah, so Kel's a bit naughty. As he travels around to places, he likes taking back artefacts with him, like souvenirs almost, and you're not allowed to do that. And one day, after he's decided he's not going to do it anymore, this woman comes up to him and gives him a note and says, please take this to my family who are in Red London. This is our only way of communicating, but Holland is refusing to do it for me, yada, yada, yada. And take this rock, this thing, as a payment. So he's like, no, I don't really want to do that, but she forced it upon him, so he has to do it. Then as he travels back, he is ambushed, somehow manages to survive, but realises the little item he was given was actually an artefact from Black London, which should have all been put back, and that's where the story starts. And there's a big battle just for this one item, and he meets Lila, who's like a sort of a thief sort of thing in Grey London. She has no powers or anything like that, and she manages to convince him to take her along on the ride because she wants to get out of Grey London, basically. And yeah, it's just so good. Honestly, the whole story, the way it comes together, but it still leaves you questioning for the next books to come. It could almost be read as a standalone, to be fair, but I wouldn't read it as standalone because I know the second book was my favourite when I read it the first time around, so it probably will be again. But it's just, obviously it's very well written, the characters are really good, it is an adult story as well, so you haven't got any of that immaturity that faces some books. It's just really good. Kel is such a good character. Lila, I love. She's just amazing. She's so headstrong and can stand up for herself. I will say there's also some good LGBTQ plus representation, not really in this book too much, although there is some cross-dressing from one of the characters in here. I won't say who. But yeah, in the next ones there definitely will be coming up. There's also disability representation as well, because Lila actually has only one eye. So yeah. But I'm very excited to read the rest of the series. I have actually completely forgotten what has happened in the other ones, apart from I know there's some sort of magical games battle thing in the second book that I remember Lila taking part in. But yeah, I can't wait to get to them. There's sort of like a very slow burn relationship thing going on as well. It's just It's such a good series. Honestly, everyone should read it. And obviously, Fragile Threads of Power is coming out September, October time, which is like, I don't know if it's a 4th book in this series or a 4th book that's set in this world. I'll find out when I read it, but obviously I need to reread all of them ready for that to be coming out. And I need to buy physical copies of them. I don't know why I don't own any B.E. Sharp books physically. I own this on Kindle, as well as a few others, but I don't actually own any physically. I need to get some. But yeah, so good. I highly recommend everyone read this. It's just such a good, very well written fantasy series that everyone should have on their repertoire if they are into fantasy. Oh, and I don't know if I said, I gave this 4.5 stars as well. And then obviously the book that I'm currently reading is A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon, which you can see why I couldn't travel with this. I was only away for like 2 nights, but yeah, I couldn't take it with me. I have almost finished it now as of recording. I'm hoping to finish it this weekend. So hold me to that. I need to get it finished. I'm going to try and read like 100 pages today, hopefully, even though I've not read any yet today. And it's like, it's going up to 4:30 and I want to watch rugby at 5:30. So we'll see what happens with that. I think I got to 66% of this by the end of July, and I think I started it on the 12th, so that shows how long it's taken me. It's just very, very slow paced. I had the same issue actually reading Fellowship of the Ring. It just took me ages to read that. I think it took me a month to read that, and this is obviously longer. But I am really, really, really enjoying this. There's just so many. I'm not going to give a full wrap up here, but the female characters are incredible. Most of the POVs are female, and they're all just like incredibly strong women. They're fighting for what they believe in. You also follow an older lady who's in like a lesbian couple, which is really interesting to read from that perspective. It's so good. It's just very good for an LGBTQ plus representation. There's like a trans character who someone called she, and they said, no, actually they're now a he, and stuff like that. And they call people they, and they've got like terms for like, instead of Mr, it'll be Mastress if it's someone who's a non-binary character. It's just very like normal. The gay characters are so normal and normalised. Like, you're not questioned whether, oh, you're going to marry a man or a woman, other than like for the child rearing purposes. It's just so good. I'm really enjoying it. I'm just very excited to finish it and get on to the next one at some point. I might have a little bit of a break and then read Priory of the Orange Tree maybe October-y time, because I'm now 3 books behind on my Goodreads reading challenge, so I need to like read some short books to catch up. But yeah, highly recommend this. And as I say, there'll be a proper wrap up as long as I finish it this month. It'll be coming out in September. But yeah, really, really good. Really enjoying this. So on to the stats portion of this video. So obviously I read in total 3 books, completely read. I was still listening to my audiobook as well. So I was technically, I should add that on. I have been listening to my audiobook, which was Caliban's War by James S. A. Corey, the second one in the Expanse series, but still not finished it. I think I'm past halfway now, but yeah, I'll add that on there. So yeah, 3 books in total, 1,648 pages, which is actually around 500 more than last month. So that shows I have been reading. It's just that big boy. It's taken me ages. And 4.53 hours of audiobook listened to, which was 0.06 more than last month. So that's not great, is it? In terms of sort of the tropes they fall into, all 3 were dark, 2 were adventurous, 1 was tense, and 1 was mysterious. What would be the mysterious one? Yellowface? Maybe? And what would be the tense one? Shadow and Bone? I don't know. But yeah, that's sort of what the areas they fell into, apparently. 2 were fast-paced, 1 was medium. I think the medium would be Shadow and Bone, even though I think that was the quickest one I read. All of them were 300 to 499 pages. I didn't finish an audiobook, but I was just put it on the screen anyway. 100% were fiction, so I need to read more non-fiction. This is becoming an issue because all I've read is fiction recently. So maybe when I finish the audiobook, I'll then do a non-fiction one, maybe. And then genre-wise, 2 were fantasy, 1 was classed as YA, 1 was thriller, which would be Yellowface, which I don't think it would really fit into that, 1 literary, which was Yellowface, 1 contemporary, which is Yellowface, and then 2 I read in print and 1 digital, obviously, as you can see. And then I'll also flash up on the screen sort of my reading log thing, where it says, I can't remember what you call it, but basically it says like what I've read each day. So I'll throw that on there. So yes, thank you for watching my wrap up for July. Let's see if I get a few more books read in August. Fingers crossed, because once I finish that, I should be flying through books. hopefully. Let me know how many books you've read in July and what your average ratings for them were, because I'd love to know, and let me know if you recommend any of them, because as always, I want to grow my TBR, even though it's way too long. I actually went on my Goodreads and I built up a physical TBR shelf and an ebook TBR shelf. They've both grown since. I need to do a book haul on here because there's so many new books that I bought in the past few months that I really shouldn't be, because I'm pretty sure my physical one's now over 40, which I know isn't that much for many people, but it does stress me out a bit. And most of them are first books in series as well, which means that obviously the number will go up if I enjoyed the series. It's really not a good thing, but it's okay. I can buy more shelves. And maybe I'll put a shelf up here because that looks bland in the background there. But yes, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.